For 3 years, I was the supportive husband. My wife, Isabel, was a rising star in her pharmaceutical sales company. Her territory had expanded, and with it came the travel 2 or 3 nights a month, sometimes more. She'd fly off to conferences in Chicago, client meetings in Denver, or training seminars in Atlanta. I'd hold down the fort, managing our home, our dog, and our quiet life, brimming with pride for her ambition and success. I would pack her suitcase with her, making sure she had her favorite travel-size shampoo. I'd drive her to the airport at dawn, kissing her goodbye at the departures curb. I'd track her flight, texting landed safe the moment it touched down. Our life was a well-oiled machine, built around the predictable rhythm of her departures and arrivals. The thought that any of it was a lie was as absurd as thinking the sun might start rising in the west. The first thread that unraveled the whole tapestry was a hotel receipt. Isabel was usually meticulous with her expense reports, but she'd left one in the pocket of her coat. I found it when I took her jacket to the dry cleaners. The trip was supposed to have been to a sales conference in Dallas, but the receipt was from a boutique hotel called the Cypress Inn in Charleston, South Carolina city her company had no business in. I stared at it, my mind racing to build a bridge between the two facts. Maybe there was a layover. Maybe she had to meet a client there last minute. I conjured a dozen logical explanations because the alternative was unthinkable. I even looked up her company's locations online, searching for a Charleston office I might have forgotten. There wasn't one. I tucked the receipt away in my desk drawer, but it sat there like a radioactive stone, poisoning my peace of mind. Suspicion is a cancer. Once it metastasizes, it touches everything. I started noticing small inconsistencies I had previously ignored. The way she'd be vague about the names of colleagues she met. The lack of hotel-branded pens or notepads in her luggage when she returned. The way she'd seem more exhausted than energized by these career-defining trips. The final push came. 2 months later, she announced she had a 4-day trip to San Francisco for a major West Coast convention. She showed me the email confirmation, the flight details, the impressive itinerary her company had supposedly sent. It all looked legitimate, but the cancerous doubt in my mind had taken root. I did something I'm not proud of. I became a spy in my own home. That night, after she fell asleep, I opened her laptop. I went to the airline's website and, using the confirmation number from her itinerary, I pulled up her booking. My heart hammered against my ribs. The flight to San Francisco had been booked. Yes, but it had been canceled 3 weeks ago. A full refund had been issued to her credit card. The itinerary was a fabrication. A lie constructed with meticulous detail. My blood ran cold. If the flight was a lie, the whole trip was a lie. But where was she going? My eyes fell on the receipt still tucked in my desk drawer. Charleston, a plan formed in my mind, a desperate, reckless plan born of a need to know the truth, no matter how ugly. I told her I had to visit my ailing aunt a few states over that same weekend. It was a plausible excuse, and she bought it without a second thought, her face a mask of sympathy for my family troubles. We were a pair of expert liars now. On Thursday morning, I drove her to the airport. We performed the same ritual we always did. The kiss, the I love you, the wave goodbye as she walked into the terminal for a flight she would never take. I watched her until she disappeared from view. Then I parked my car and walked inside. I didn't book a flight to San Francisco. I booked a flight to Charleston. On the plane, I felt like a character in a cheap thriller. My heart pounded with a mixture of fear and adrenaline. What would I find? What if I was wrong? What if there was a perfectly reasonable explanation for all of this, and I was destroying our marriage with my paranoid delusions? But deep down, I knew I wasn't wrong. The lies were too elaborate. I landed in Charleston and checked into a nondescript hotel. I had the name of the hotel from the old receipt, the Cypress Inn. It was a charming, upscale place in the historic district, with ivy-covered walls and gas lamps flickering by the entrance. Not a convention hotel. It was a romantic getaway. I rented a car and parked across the street, my stomach in knots. I sat there for 3 hours, feeling like the world's biggest fool. Then, a taxi pulled up, and she got out. Isabel, my wife. She looked beautiful, relaxed, wearing a sundress I'd never seen before. She wasn't alone. A man got out of the taxi behind her. He was tall, handsome, and he put his hand on the small of her back with an easy, familiar intimacy. He paid the driver while she laughed at something he said. They walked into the hotel together, his arm now draped casually over her shoulder. I didn't move. I couldn't. I just sat there, my mind a blank slate of shock. The supportive husband, the pride, the shared life, it all evaporated in that single, devastating moment. I was a stranger watching another stranger steal his wife. I don't know how long I sat there. The sun began to set, and the gas lamps of the Cypress Inn flickered to life, bathing the street in a warm, romantic glow that felt like a personal insult. I didn't storm into the hotel. I didn't cause a scene. My rage was too cold, too deep for that. I took out my phone. I took one clear photo of the hotel entrance. Then, I sent it to Isabel. I didn't add any text. I didn't need to. Less than a minute later, my phone rang. It was her. I let it ring until it went to voicemail. It rang again, and again. Then a text message appeared. Where are you? Please don't do this. Then another. We need to talk. I can explain. But there was nothing to explain. The picture I had in my mind of her and that man, walking into that hotel, in a city she was never supposed to be in, was the only explanation I needed. The work trips, the itineraries, the pride I felt, it was all a lie. She wasn't building her career. She was living a second life. I turned the car on and drove back to the airport. I caught the first flight I could get to anywhere that wasn't home. I needed the world to swallow me up for a few hours. The truth hadn't set me free. It had locked me in a prison of betrayal, and the face of my jailer was the same face I had loved and trusted for years.